Shravanadibhiruddhipta Jnanagniparitapitaha Jiva Sarvamalan Muktaha Swarnavadhyottate Swayam. Shravanadibhiruddhipta Jnanagniparitapitaha Jiva Sarvamalan Muktaha Swarnavadhyottate Swayam. The individual heated in the fire of knowledge, Jnanagni Paritapitaha, heated in the fire of knowledge, kindled by listening to the Shastras, Shravanadibhi, Uddipta. Uddipta means kindled. Kindled by Shravana, listening. The individual heated in the fire of knowledge, etc. Adi refers to the other two practices, is freed from all impurities. And once you are freed, you shine by itself just like gold. Swarnam. Swarnam is like gold. Dyotate swayam. It shines by itself. You don't need anything else in the gold to shine. It shines by itself. But when will the gold shine by itself? When the impurities in the gold are separated. Again, a beautiful analogy. Once the impurities are separated, the gold shines by itself. Similarly, Vasantama, what are the impurities in an individual? Just like gold is covered with impurities, the self also is enveloped by impurities. So what are the impurities?
All greed, attachments, ignorance, vasana.
Greed, correct. It is the vasanas expressing in multifold ways. Greed, arrogance, ego, agitations, avarana and vikshepa. The vasanas expressed in the form of avarana and vikshepa. The mental agitations and ignorance. The vasanas are expressing in the form of mental agitations and ignorance, avarana and vikshepa. So when the ignorance is dispelled, and how do you dispel the ignorance?
Knowledge.
Sorry, ma?
Knowledge.
Yes, you dispel the ignorance through knowledge. And how do you gain the knowledge?
Shravana, manana.
Nididhyasana. Correct. So the individual, perfect, ma. So the individual heated in the fire of knowledge. So you get heated means, and how do you get heated? Again, go back to the example in the 62nd verse of the iron ball of the fire. The moment you associate with it, you gain the knowledge of that which you are associating. All right. So when you associate more with knowledge, you gain the attributes of the knowledge. You imbibe the values ingrained in the knowledge. So heated by the knowledge is again symbolic, is poetic expression. And how do you get heated? Through the process of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So the Shravana is listening, Manana is reflecting, Nididhyasana is meditating, experiencing the truth. Now, these three takes care of the three levels of ignorance. The three levels of ignorance are lack of information, lack of understanding, and lack of experience. So the three levels of ignorance are countered by three levels of acquiring knowledge. The first is Shravana. So when he says Shravana, listening, etc., he refers to reflection, and Nididhyasana, which is meditation. So in fact, this process of purification we often keep quoting, the source of it is taken from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad actually mentions these three processes of Shravana, manana, and nididhyasana. And once you do that, he says, you shall shine just like gold. Now, when does gold shine? Once the impurities are removed. And where do you find gold? Badrinath ji, where do you find gold, sir? Don't tell me Mangatrai. Or don't tell me any gold shop.
I'm quite ignorant because I don't have any gold.
Neither do I, sir.
But seriously, it is usually found either deep inside the earth or in streams and places where there's running water and you use pans. So it's called panhandling. So, but most of the time, bulk of the gold is found deep inside the earth.
Deep inside the bowels of the earth, there you find this gold mines, isn't it? They go deep into the bowels of the earth, isn't it? So when you first identify gold, it's what's the first process of identification?
I assume that the miners, when you're deep inside, you need to shine light in order to see. Otherwise, the sunlight doesn't penetrate deep inside. So you need to use some artificial light. So when they do that, they see something shine. Even with all the dirt, it still shines a bit. Even with all the dirt.
Correct. So once you see there is a thin streak or some section or some elements of gold, that whole section of that ore
is removed,
is extracted. So that gold is with a lot of gravel and soil and mud and dirt. So when it goes through the process of removing the dirt, the impurities, it's an interesting process, It is sieved and then smelted, and then the molten gold is cooled, and then you get some kind of a solid form to it. Right. So it goes through the process. The process of removing the impurities from gold is exactly like removing the impurities of the vasanas from the self. So the self is the gold, and the impurities, the ore, is the ignorance.
The process of discovery, extraction, and purification.
Correct. So the process of discovery, extraction, and purification. And then what is left is the self, which shines by itself. You don't need anything else for it to shine. So you don't give brilliance to the gold, you just remove the impurities. So you don't give any wisdom to the self. The self is all wise. You just remove your ignorance. Once you remove it, the wisdom gushes forth, isn't it? So, and why that is so is because that is the original nature, that is the swabhava of gold. You can't give brilliance to gold, isn't it? So swabhava of the self is, it is all knowledge, it is all blissful. All that's happening is our avidya is clouding. And the beautiful way of understanding is, if you had noted the word I used, the self is enveloped. So the word, I suppose, English, I'm very poor at the derivative. Ushama, does the word envelope, doesn't it come from the word enveloped?
Both are same. Namaste Guruji, both are same actually.
Enveloped and envelope are the same?
It is noun form and it is the verb form.
So the same. See, I told you I'm very ignorant in grammar.
Oh, come on.
So one is the noun, other is the verb. So once you say envelope, what does it mean, enveloped?
It is covered. It is enclosed, or it is covered.
It's enclosed. And in the Vedantic study, that which envelops the self is known as
the impurity or ignorance or
and another trait of this in the example, in the context, another trait of something which envelops is it doesn't contact that which it's enveloping,
yeah. Yes.
nor does it influence that which it's
Yes.
enveloping.
Yes. Yes, Guruji.
So that which is being enveloped remains pure and
Pure.
intact.
Yes. Yes.
Just like the ore which is covering the gold,
The gold.
doesn't tarnish the gold,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And what is that word which is enveloping the self?
It is the ignorance, Guruji.
Not the word. What is that?
Ah.
What is that which envelops the self? Ignorance, avidya, as you rightly said. But what is other Sanskrit word? Actually, is in plural, not singular, in plural. One guess, ma. What's the Sanskrit word?
Vasanas, Guruji.
All right, let me ask Padminima, what is that?
Is it malinam? Because what is amala
What
or
is that,
vimala is pure thing.
No, what is that word you use? Sorry.
Malinam.
What is
That
that?
is impurity.
Which language is that? Malayalam?
Malinyam.
Malayalam?
No. Malayalam we say malinyam. That is impurity.
No wonder I didn't hear or heard of it, you know.
We say that amala and vimala is pure. Amala is also pure. Without mala is
Correct.
amala.
Correct. So my question is, what is that word which envelops the self, but doesn't contact, doesn't tarnish the self, but yet it clouds it? That word in plural is known as koshas. Kosha, K-O-S-H-A, and the plural koshas. Koshas means the sheath.
Okay.
Okay. So the 5 sheets or the koshas which cover the self are Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and Anandamaya kosha. The 5 sheets which cover the innermost core, which is the self. But these koshas which envelop the self cloud the brilliance of the Atman, but doesn't contact the Atman, nor does it tarnish the Atman. So the Atman remains intact and pure, even though when the sheets are enveloping them, isn't it? That's the message. Just like a sheath, you put a sword into a sheath which covers the sword, but the tip of the blade of the sword doesn't get blunt because it covers it, yet doesn't contact it. Are we right? So similarly, the Atman or the self is covered by the avidya, which is ignorance. But by your association getting heated in the knowledge through Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, the impurities are removed and the self reveals and shines by itself just like gold. Tell you, once you get the hang of it, once you get the logic of it, once you understand the language of these masters, it is sheer poetry. It's just music. It's like once you know the raga, and when the musician is singing on the stage, you are dancing in the aisles. You are dancing to the tunes because you know what is going on, you know. But you must know, first of all, is you must attune to the music. So it's pure divine music. Okay. So in fact, we're already into the last section of the text, which is verses 65 to 68. He's talking about how the knowledge of the self reveals Brahman. So 65th verse, he spoke about the eye of wisdom. And the 66th verse is talking about the process of Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, which removes the ignorance and how the self shines by itself. So he's almost giving you the conclusion of how the knowledge becomes an instrumental. In fact, there is no other means but this knowledge to get to the self. So how the knowledge reveals the truth in you.